Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a topic that fundamentally shapes our lives, yet honestly, it's widely misunderstood. We are looking at the stark reality of true wealth versus high income. It's a really crucial distinction. Society basically conditions us to look at massive salaries, luxury cars, those premium labels, and we see them as the ultimate markers of financial success. But behind closed doors, a totally different reality is playing out. It's a reality where high earners are often literally just one missed paycheck away from ruin, while everyday individuals are quietly building generational freedom.
Wealth is what you don't see. This quote by Morgan Housel completely reorients how we understand money. True wealth is built on quiet restraint, not loud consumption. It's the luxury car you didn't buy, the premium upgrades you declined, the money that's silently compounding in your investment accounts. When we see someone flashing expensive items, the only thing we actually know for a fact is that they have less money now than they did before they bought those items. We don't see their wealth, we only see their spending.
Section 1. The illusion of wealth. So this brings us to a huge paradox in modern finance. Why do so many high earners, people pulling in 6 or even 7-figure salaries, find themselves stuck living paycheck to paycheck? Well, it's because they've bought into an illusion. There's a deliberate contrast between two highly confused concepts here. Income is really just the annual flow of money. It's what you earn, sure, but it's also what you spend to finance your lifestyle. Wealth, on the other hand, is the money you keep, invest, and grow. Think of it this way. Income is loud, but wealth is that accumulated, silent freedom to make life choices without financial pressure. Earning more just gives you the capacity to build wealth. It absolutely doesn't guarantee it.
To really understand why a high income so rarely translates into actual wealth, we've got to look at something called hedonic adaptation. This is the psychological mechanism where we naturally and very quickly adapt to our improved circumstances. Think about the thrill of your last pay raise. At first it feels amazing, right? You treat yourself. But give it a few weeks, and that premium coffee, the nicer apartment, or that upgraded car, it doesn't feel like a treat anymore. It just feels like a basic necessity. Your expensive new baseline is officially set, and that extra money just vanishes into your daily routine.
Section 2. The trap of lifestyle creep.
This whole psychological adaptation thing leads us straight into the systemic ways our bigger paychecks get quietly absorbed by our changing habits. 435%. That number represents the staggering increase in average American household subscription spending just since 2018. It's a quiet drain, a premium streaming service here, a meal delivery app there, maybe a digital fitness platform you hardly ever use. That is the structural reality of lifestyle creep. It almost never happens from one huge, reckless purchase. It happens through dozens of tiny, seemingly harmless monthly charges that silently eat away your future financial freedom.
The really crucial thing here is knowing how to spot it. Look, if your income jumps by 20%, but your savings rate basically stays flat, you are actually losing ground. The warning signs are crystal clear. We're talking about flat savings despite getting raises, the unquestioned addition of premium entertainment, and relying heavily on expensive convenience services just to buy back the time you spend working for that higher income.
Section 3. The psychology of poverty.
Let's shift our focus to the cognitive hurdles that actively block wealth accumulation. And honestly, these hurdles affect people at almost every income level. Behavioral economics shows us that the way we mentally categorize our money completely dictates how we spend it. When money is what we call unlabeled and just sitting there easily available, it gets spent way more freely than accounted money. This creates some devastating traps. For unbanked individuals, or really anyone without a rigid budget, this leads straight to using negative interest vehicles, things like layaways or rent-to-own plans. They're immediately accessible, sure, but mathematically, they are ruinous. That easily available money simply vanishes, trapping people in endless cycles of debt, regardless of what they actually earn.
Section 4. Capital Inequality and Economics.
Now, let's zoom out for a second from personal psychology to look at the massive macroeconomic structures that dictate wealth distribution across entire nations, because this concept of spending beyond your means scales all the way up to the highest levels of government. As defined by the Pew Research Center, a government budget deficit is the annual shortfall between what a government spends and what it takes in. The national debt is the total accumulated amount borrowed over time to cover all those deficits. So just as an individual's lifestyle creep turns a great salary into massive credit card debt, systemic financial mismanagement scales up to create trillions in national debt. The mechanics of financial failure are remarkably consistent.
What we're looking at here is the macro-ecophysical model of wealth. In academic fields where dynamic macroeconomics meets actual physics, researchers model wealth inequality not just as a matter of policy, but as a system of interacting agents. They use complex dynamic equations that measure capital, production, and the discount rate of time preference. And the mathematics basically confirm it. Without deliberate redistribution and strict thresholds, capital naturally concentrates, which continually widens the inequality gap.
When calculating the Gini index of wealth inequality, what this complex eco-physical simulation ultimately proves is actually deeply philosophical. Economic stability and the control of inequality rely heavily on what researchers call consumption morals. Mathematically, this is a parameter that represents a societal threshold. It's essentially the collective discipline of just knowing how much is enough. Without an internal mechanism to cap consumption, both individual utility and societal equality eventually break down.
Section 5. Building invisible wealth.
Let's pivot back to you, the individual. In the face of systemic inequality and these powerful behavioral traps we've discussed, how do we fight back? Well, we use stark, mathematical frameworks. This is the 50-30-20 rule for raises. You need to treat these as strict, non-negotiable rules to break the cycle of lifestyle inflation. When your income goes up, 50% of that new money immediately goes into savings and investments. 30% goes to accelerating your debt payoff or padding your emergency fund, and only 20% is allowed for lifestyle upgrades. You have to ensure that the vast majority of your new earning power is working for your future, not just your present comfort.
To protect yourself even further, you can deploy the 80% rule and the 10x rule. The rule is to never increase your lifestyle spending by more than 80% of any given raise. Furthermore, make sure that any single lifestyle upgrade you purchase costs less than 10% of your total annual income increase. Now here is the absolutely critical part. You must automate these ratios instantly, the very day you receive your raise. By physically quarantining the new income before you even see it in your checking account, you completely remove emotion and hedonic adaptation from the equation.
Ultimately, building invisible wealth is all about strategies for long-term growth. It starts with consistently saving at least 10% just to build that solid foundation. Then you have to rely on the cold mathematical magic of compounding over decades. To execute this, you can leverage accessible platforms like U-Trade to put your money into the market consistently. Remember this fundamental truth: immense discipline will always beat raw income over a lifetime. Earning more is certainly helpful, but keeping it, that's mandatory.
So, I'll leave you with this. Is your growing income actually building invisible wealth, or are you just financing a louder illusion? Take a hard look at your accounts. The numbers do not lie. True wealth whispers, and it's time we all start listening to the silence.